Imagine a queen so powerful, so magnetic that the most powerful men of Rome, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, risked empires, betrayed allies, and even sacrificed their lives for her. A queen whose beauty has been exaggerated, whose cunning has been both feared and admired, and whose scandalous affairs shook the foundations of the ancient world. This is not just the story of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt. This is the tale of seduction, power, betrayal, and the scandalous love affairs that made her immortal. But here's the twist. Much of what you think you know about Cleopatra is a lie, carefully crafted by her enemies. The queen who wasn't supposed to rule Cleopatra was only 18 when she inherited the throne of Egypt. Most queens were expected to serve quietly, marry nobly, and follow tradition. But Cleopatra wasn't like any other ruler. She was ambitious, charismatic, and willing to risk everything to maintain her crown. But her empire was on the verge of collapse. Rome, the unstoppable superpower of the world, was tightening its grip on Egypt. Cleopatra knew one thing: she needed more than soldiers. She needed influence, and influence meant seducing power itself. The scandal with Julius Caesar. When Cleopatra was forced out of her throne by her own brother, she did the unthinkable. She had herself smuggled into Julius Caesar's palace, wrapped inside a carpet. Yes, the story is true. A rolled-up rug was carried into Caesar's private chambers. When it was unrolled, out came Cleopatra, bold, fearless, and dazzling. Caesar was in his 50s. Cleopatra was barely 21. But what she lacked in years, she made up for in charm and intelligence. Caesar was captivated. Some say it was love. Others say it was strategy. But here's the shocking fact. Cleopatra didn't just seduce Caesar. She gave him a son, Caesarion. The Roman Senate was horrified. For the first time, the most powerful man in Rome was linked to a foreign queen. It wasn't just scandal. It was dangerous. And when Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, Cleopatra's future, and that of her child, was thrown into chaos. Mark Antony, the affair that shook Rome. With Caesar gone, Cleopatra turned her eyes to another Roman general, Mark Antony. Their meeting in 41 BC was legendary. Cleopatra didn't just arrive to meet Antony, she staged a performance. Picture this. Cleopatra sailed into the city of Tarsus on a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite. Perfume filled the air, servants fanned her with feathers, and music echoed across the river. Antony, the most feared warrior of Rome, was spellbound, and just like Caesar, Antony fell under her spell. But this affair was even more scandalous. Antony was already married. And not just to anyone. His wife was Octavia, the sister of Octavian, the man who would later become Rome's first emperor, Augustus. By betraying his Roman wife for the Egyptian queen, Antony set off a chain reaction of political chaos. Octavian declared propaganda war, painting Cleopatra as a witch, a temptress, and a foreign enemy. The shocking luxuries of their love. Antony and Cleopatra didn't hide their relationship, they flaunted it. Together, they lived in unimaginable luxury. Cleopatra once bet Antony that she could spend 10 million sesterces on a single meal. How? She crushed one of her priceless pearls, dissolved it in vinegar, and drank it. A single sip worth more than an empire's fortune. They formed their own secret club called the Society of Inimitable Livers, where nights were filled with feasts, wine, and wild games. Cleopatra often dressed Antony in Egyptian costumes, parading him through Alexandria as if he were a pharaoh. To Rome, this was more than scandal. It was humiliation, war for love. As Antony and Cleopatra grew closer, their enemies grew louder. Octavian declared that Antony was no longer loyal to Rome, but enslaved by Cleopatra. In 31 BC, their love story collided with history in the famous Battle of Actium. Cleopatra-Aea's navy fought Octavian-Aea's forces in a battle that would decide the fate of the ancient world. But the outcome was disastrous. Cleopatra and Antony fled in defeat. Their empire crumbled. The tragic end. What followed was one of history's most dramatic endings. As Octavian's troops closed in, Antony believed Cleopatra had died. Heartbroken, He fell on his own sword, but when he learned she was still alive, he was carried to her chambers bleeding and died in her arms. Cleopatra knew what would come next. She would be paraded through Rome as a trophy queen, mocked and shamed. For the last time, she chose scandal over submission. The legend says she allowed a venomous asp, a snake, to bite her. Some believe it was poison hidden in a hairpin. Either way, Cleopatra took her own life at 39 years old. Her death ended 3,000 years of pharaohs. Egypt would never be free again. The lies that made her a legend. Here is the shocking truth. Much of Cleopatra's scandalous image was crafted by her enemies. Roman propaganda turned her into a seductress, a schemer, a temptress who bewitched men. But in reality, Cleopatra was far more than her affairs. She spoke 9 languages, studied mathematics, philosophy, and astronomy, and ruled Egypt for over 2 decades. She was not just a lover of powerful men. She was a queen who played the most dangerous game in history, survival. And though her empire fell, her legend lives on. So when you hear the name Cleopatra, remember this. She was not the helpless beauty Hollywood portrays, nor the wicked temptress Rome painted her to be. She was a strategist, a survivor, and yes, a woman whose scandalous love affairs changed the fate of nations. Because sometimes history isn't written by the victors, it's written by the jealous.